And I want to welcome everybody to our last leadership development webinar of the 24-25 program fiscal term year. Welcome everybody. So glad that you're here. My name is Sonia Varillo. I am your New York State PTA treasurer, and I am also currently the designated officer for the leadership development team, which is led by our leadership development coordinator, Mary Sotomayor, our workshop leadership training specialist, Robin Broomfield, and our technology training specialist, Kathleen McEnroe. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Robin, who is the official host of this webinar.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Robin Brumfield, as Sonia has said, and I'm thrilled to be here with you tonight as on the last of the leadership, as your leadership training specialist, as we gather to get this much needed information on how to properly transition into our next role. Before we get started, did you know that by participating in this webinar, you could actually qualify for that special New York State Leadership Development Pit? How do you do it? You must attend at least six of these engaging workshops, webinars, absorb all the knowledge shared, and apply what you've learned. I mean, because everything that we've presented throughout the year is something that will help you to be a better leader in your unit, in your council, in your area. And this is what it's all about. So once you have completed these steps and demonstrated your leadership in action, you'll unlock the exclusive leadership development award pin. It's not just a pin, it's a symbol of your dedication and excellence as a leader in our community. Now, before we dive in, I just wanted to, welcome everyone again and thank our two presenters, none other than Dana Plainton. She is currently on the National PTA Board of Directors and former New York State PTA president. And also we have our co-host or co-presenter. We have Mary McNamara, who is also on the New York State Board of Directors, and more personal to me, she is the she is the Weber regional director. And it's just wonderful because you can't hear from two better presenters about how to transition and how to pass the baton, because they've been in the various leadership roles for so long and they've done it, without issue, and they just make it seamless. So I'm asking you, and I'm going to turn it over to them. And just so you know, I do want to say that there is a special question that you need to listen for the answers. They will be covered in their presentation, and it's about celebrating outgoing leadership. So that's going to be the area in which you will need to focus and concentrate on as you apply for the leadership development pin. But I'm going to turn it over to Mary and Dana and say, carry on, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. I appreciate it. Give me a quick second. I'm going to share my screen so that we can get the presentation up on the screen here for you to see. It's only a few slides just to kind of keep us on track. So now that you've seen all my email, here we go. Let's see. I want there we go. I'm trying to find how to just do a slideshow, and my that strip across the top on a Zoom, it's blocking everything. Give me a quick second. I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay, so that's not working. Is it working? Can you see? You can see everything, right? So it doesn't matter, right? You could just see.
There's also a slide icon, Dana, on the bottom.
There we go.
There we go.
All
Got it
right.
now.
You see, I always need a little extra help. I appreciate that. Okay, so passing the baton from the incoming to the outgoing. And there we go. Is this green thing showing? How do I get rid of that?
what are you seeing that you're worried about? Because
Uh,
it's
you-
showing up properly.
So you're not seeing a green,
The border around the thing. It doesn't really matter.
okay, but you're not seeing a green square in the middle that says
I
yours.
am. I mean, not in the middle, but I'm seeing it around the presentation.
All right, it's annoying me. I don't know why I can't get rid of it, but my family in the other room is making fun of me. I don't think that's very nice. Okay, here we go. All right, so that's not in the right,
You got to go back one. Or yeah,
here
right
we
there.
go. Thank you. Listen, I was a much better president than I am a Zoom technical person. I'm just saying. All right, so we're going to get started right away. Practices for a smooth transition, and starting with write it down. So as you've been an officer, you have learned a lot, you have done a lot, and hopefully you've been taking notes throughout, you have meetings, you have ideas, whatever it is, hopefully you've been writing it down. And so that when it comes to transition, you can take all of your notes and you can pass it on. From how decided on particular fundraisers to what you did for to prepare for a meeting or to prepare for a presentation. If you write it all down and you have all those notes, organize them so that you could pass that on to the next person who will be coming into your position.
So I now say clean it out. So the other thing that comes up, it's like we all have our mailboxes. And the important thing is making sure that you clean out what isn't necessary, but you make sure that you file what's needed for your members, for your incoming officers to work from. So whether it be agendas, copies of minutes, copies of budgets, an explanation of events with all the information. You should, if possible, if you get a Google workspace, you can do it for free as a nonprofit so that you have something so you can put it in a Google Drive so it's accessible to your leadership. Or you can do it in the old-fashioned way. If you have a common email, have a folder or give a drive off, but make sure that you clean out the mailbox that is a shared mailbox and that the files that people need are there and available and easy to find.
So as I said before, we want you to pass on all that you've accumulated, but not the extra junk. So whether it be on it in an inbox or physical paper, or just, files that you don't think need to be shared, clean that out. But now you want to pass things on. So what is it that you're passing on? You are passing on agendas. Hopefully the president before you shared their agendas with you. It is a way to keep yourself organized from month to month so that you know the things that you need to concentrate on. If you have an idea of what was presented at each meeting via an agenda, then it does give you that idea of what you want to do going forward. It will be agendas for your executive committee meetings, executive for your board meetings, because your executive committee, those are your elected officers, your board positions are committee chairs and so on. Anybody who perhaps was added to your board as a board member at large, that's your executive board. And then of course you have your general meetings. So you probably have agendas for each of those, I would imagine, because that is how things run smoothly, especially using Robert's rules. That's how we work our meetings. But if you have all those for each and every month and you share those with the next president, next incoming officers, it does make it so much easier. Those of us who have been presidents, president of the state, I got all that information that I needed from past presidents. It did help me going forward and prepare me, because I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, if you think that you're prepared to be president, and then you step into those shoes on day one, it's like, oh my goodness, you think you're ready, and then you realize this is much more than I expected. That has happened to each and every one of us. We think that we're that's it, we're ready, we've been tapped, we've been elected, and now let's do this. It's not that easy. So if you have gotten information and from previous board members, previous presidents, they've passed it on to you in a nice organized fashion, it is so much easier. So we're asking all of you who are transitioning out to make sure that what you're doing is you're passing it on and you are passing on everything that they need to be successful.
So the other thing is also sharing your ideas. So, but don't be offended. So sometimes, your ideas are your ideas and you want to give them in a constructive way, but realize that it may not be what the new president or the new officer is really the direction they want to go in. But it's a good way sometimes to like spark an idea for them to grow from, to create new ideas and to further some of their agendas and some of their programs. So as you have experience, it is important to be there and not just disappear so that they have someone that they can confer with and learn more from if they want to. And you can often like help them understand the areas that may be difficult. You may share ideas on how to, work with the administration in school or whatever, but also never be offended if they don't take all of your ideas.
For me, and this is something when Mary and I were talking about this presentation and what we wanted to share, it's only 45 minutes. We only have a few slides. So it's a lot of information in a very short amount of time. But for me, really, really important was to make sure that all the people that you surrounded yourself with, because everybody did this together, you did not do this alone, make sure that they are all celebrated, especially those who are going out, they're retiring or they're moving on to the next school, maybe elementary to middle to high school. Let's celebrate them. We want to make sure that we are thankful in a way that they feel our appreciation and our gratitude. It doesn't have to be a gift. I always did like little things, like even just a little thing of candy or, I don't know. I had all these different crazy things. And you know what? We all know how to find those ideas. You just now have to search the internet for those, little small gifts of appreciation, but it makes a difference. It really makes somebody feel special. It makes them feel like you appreciated them. And there's nothing more satisfying than knowing that the work that you have done has made a difference. And so always say thank you. Most important, you always say thankful. You make eye contact when you're saying it, and you just make it as sincere as you can because you sincerely mean it, right? It could be like a little gift. It could be maybe you're all going out to celebrate. And the first round, since we know PTA cannot pay for a meal, alcohol, maybe you want to buy everybody a round of, a bottle of wine or something like that. You can do that. Maybe you just want to treat them to dinner. Most PTAs do have an end of the year celebration, but make sure those outgoing leaders are celebrated. A certificate, a gift, a candy bar with a wrapper around it. I have to tell you something and this will be a surprise to Mary. On my keychain, she gave me at the end of my term as New York State PTA president, a silk keychain. And that just tells me that I made a difference and thank you. And I see it literally every time I lock my door. And so, Mary, I do think about you more often than you probably think. But that was really special to me. It came completely as a surprise. And it made me feel appreciated. It made me feel special. And I just, it just really warmed my heart. So make sure that you celebrate those outgoing leaders. It does make a difference. Thank you,
Thank,
as if I'm done. We have more slides to go, sorry.
Yeah, and one other thing, I'll bring up one other quick idea because we had somebody who was our former president in my small community was brilliant at writing like very funny things. So she would do every year she did a slideshow with anecdotes about something that had each one of the volunteers had done. It was done in a respectful but clever way to say, I see you, I saw what you did as a volunteer, and we're celebrating you and we're all enjoying it together. So it doesn't have to be something big, but you can do it creatively, but it's still a way of recognizing your volunteers and making sure they know that they've been seen and that they're enjoyed and they're thanked for it. So also be a mentor, be there for the leadership. Like I said, don't disappear. We've all heard sometimes people move on or move into a situation where they're not able to be there as much, but, be a mentor, make sure that you share the information, you help your incoming leadership. Don't try to get them to do things the way you did them exactly, but help them understand why you did the things the way you did so that they can grow from that and become better leaders themselves.
So basically, just to wrap up transition, we want you to acknowledge that for these incoming leaders, that it is a challenge. Because, if you're leaving, especially if you're going to another school, if you're not going to be able to stick around and be there at an event to physically, mentor them. Maybe it's just a phone call or an email, a text. Um, it's a challenge, right? So the easier that we can make it for those people that are coming in, the better for them and the better for the unit and better for the children, because that's something we always have to keep in mind is the mission of PTA, and it's all about the children. So when transitioning from one group of leaders to another, that's what has to be first and foremost on everyone's mind. So we want to make it easier. And as Mary said before, the incoming president could have a completely different style, completely different ideas. There's nothing wrong with that. So we have to respect that. And we also have to, kind of just support that, whether or not, their style is different from yours and it's not something that you're comfortable with. The members of your PTA have elected an individual and they are entitled to have their own way of doing things, their own culture. So even though there are different styles, just you need to support them. It's about the kids. So just as a wrap up, write it down, clean it out, pass it on, share ideas, be a mentor, and then step back, be available. But now you get to enjoy what goes on at the PTA without having to do all the work.
So a little bit about the structure of the PTA. As we all know, I think most people here are unit officers, and we have a few different styles of units even. If you're like I'm from a very small district, so we are a centralized unit. So our officers are K through 12. So they have the entire breadth of the school district. So our officers are structured in that way, where some of you may be by individual school. And so the hierarchy is for like a small district like myself, we do not have a council. So we do not have a council to go to as a resource for some of our questions or some of our information to do some of our training. So our unit, relied on our region and our state and national for our information and our resources. But if you're lucky enough to have a council or you're a council officer, some of your role, it's great. You have a bigger responsibility as a council because you're working with your units in your district, and that's helpful. And you're helping them with their officer training by schools of instruction to help support the units and help their officers grow. Of course, the region. So for the unit, for all of the units, the region is your resource to go to always before you go to the state. I will tell you, if you go to the state first, you will be told to come back to the region. As a region director, we are there to help offer training. We're there to help offer support. We have officers who, we have chairs who are bylaws chairs. We have a membership chair. We have reflections chairs. So we can help you in those ways when you're working on your programs, when you're working on different areas to remain in good standing. And we're there to offer training as well and to do schools of instruction to help our officers at both the council level and the unit level. And of course, the next step up is our state and the state training. And these are also all things to aspire to as you're in your leadership growth. This is how you can look to your future. If you wish to grow from being a unit officer, do you move on to council, region, and state? And of course, ultimately national, as we have a lot of resources at national. So when you're looking for different trainings, the upcoming training, I know Dana has the logo for the upcoming national convention where there are workshops. It's a virtual convention. So these are great ways to get additional leadership training, but this is your hierarchy in far as the PTA structure goes. And it's a good thing to understand and to know where you go as you're either moving up in leadership and where you're going for your information.
So I'll just piggyback a little bit on what Mary said. She mentioned the schools of instruction. And for those of you who aren't aware what that is, your region will actually come into your unit to do a training. When I was involved with the region, we had several units across, I'm from Suffolk region, I live out on Long Island, and we had units that were struggling and needed just a boost, some support, maybe a little bit of an intervention. And so we had people from the region who would go in and do a training for their boards. Sometimes it's just a PTA 101 training because there are some units that really are struggling just even how to do things the PTA way. Sometimes it's just conflict resolution or, learning about the proper way to do an election, or how to do an audit, things like that. So even though the state and the region do their trainings, something like this, or a region might have, an evening where they're offering 10 different workshops, and it's it's a lovely evening out, so make sure you take advantage of those. Or state has a convention, or the summer leadership, which is coming up in July, which and registration is now open, so a little plug for that also. And the summer leadership conference is phenomenal. It's fun, it's exciting. This year's theme is the circus, and you can guarantee that people are going to be coming dressed as clowns, circus animals, trapeze artists, so on, because that's the fun of the summer conference, is just, diving right in and just taking part of all the different things that I have to offer, but also coming dressed up appropriately to the theme. So just as an FYI, if you're thinking about, your unit could use a boost, then contact your region director and see what they can do about a school of instruction. And, a lot of things kind of slow down in the summer, not just for, your local units, but for the region and state as well. Everybody's still working hard, but, you might not want to plan a school of instruction in the middle of July when people are vacationing, but you might want to do it in September when people are coming back and you feel like you could use that. So just keep that in mind. And if you need help finding out what region you're in or who your region director is, you can go to the New York State website and check that out, or you can just contact one of us, and we're happy to help you with that. Okay, so this is for incoming presidents. And this is a lot of information in 4 bullets. It is not all that you need by any means. However, just some things to kind of keep, on the top of your list in your own mind. Most importantly, make sure you know your bylaws and your procedures. Make sure you have read them. Make sure that you understand them. Robert and I, before everybody came on, we were, kind of chit-chatting about an error that both of us made, because we didn't know our bylaws and procedures when we first became presidents. So I became president of my kids' elementary schools many years ago, and I didn't really know enough. I thought I did, but I didn't. And I would have known more had I been familiar with the bylaws and procedures better than I was, if I had known what the job descriptions were for each of the officers and for each of the chair people, and if I looked beyond my own thoughts about how I wanted to do things. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. You must read your bylaws, you must read your procedures, and you must internalize them and know them inside and out, the bylaws in particular. Anybody can see them. They are not, part of a secret society. So if somebody wants to see them, you can absolutely provide that copy for them. But you have to read them. You have to know them. So really important. Make sure you know you've read them and you've internalized them. And at a meeting, you have them with you. Because there are times that you may have to open them up and take a look. Same with your procedures. I used to keep everything in a binder, and that binder came with me to every single meeting that I had. So that's just a little helpful hint also. Print them out and put them in a binder and take them with you every time, so that you could refer to that if somebody has a question, or if they just want to see them themselves. Mary?
Yep, sure. State resources. The state has an enormous amount of resources. As we were getting ready for this, even we were going back and looking at presentations that were held over other summer leaderships on transitions. Whoops. So it's important to go in and on the New York State PTA website, go in and do a search, because under the leadership tab, under the leaders tab, you can go down. There are sections that says resource guides, and under the resource guides are all of the different topics broken out, whether it's bylaws, whether it's AIM insurance, whether it's financial, whether it's your executive board, how to be a PTA. There's a basic for entry level for presidents. So it's a great resource. Plus on there, all the webinars, including this one eventually will be up there. So any webinars that have been done are included there. oh, thank you for jumping over there. It's great. And you can also go, if you go under the events, and this is something I was discussing with somebody today who was asking about it. If you go to summer leadership or you saw a presentation 2 years ago at summer leadership, you can go on under the tab for events, go back to that, and you'll see the actual presentations are there. They're not recorded, but the PowerPoints are all there. So it's a great resource. And the other thing we always say in the PTA, you can always borrow somebody else's presentation and work from that. So we don't reinvent the wheel. It's not stealing. It's just a way to like utilize the resources that have already been developed and build on it. So it makes the job much easier. Don't be afraid to go and explore. The same with the National PTA. There are toolkits for a number of different topics. There's under both of ours, under New York State and under the National PTA. But you really have to go in and kind of play around and explore and see what you can find, because there is so much information in there. And I know a lot of people get a little bit overwhelmed. You can always go, I've always been very welcoming to people who, if they have a question, I will direct them where to go, and I will send them the link to how to find things on the website, because I think it's really important that you start also building your library of resources to help you from the state and national PTA.
So, I mean, if you were paying attention, I'm kind of just scrolling through so you guys can see. But there's also this resource guide, and it used to be a bound book
It was
that
like
was sent to
64
everybody.
pages. Yeah.
Right. And now it is online, and you can see all the information is right here. So, I mean, I can't click on advocacy, right? That's not a clickable link. Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, it wasn't blue. So, but anyway, as you can see that it covers all the different information that you need just for advocacy. So, all the information is here, but then it also covers everything else. You can, there's all different kinds of things here. So here, programs. And this is on the New York PTA website. And so you could see all the different programs that are covered. If you wanted to learn how to do reflections or how to do PARP, all of the information is here. All the different awards that are available through New York State PTA. Many of these awards you can give to your fellow leaders in your unit or council. And so all that information is here. And it's as simple as going to nyspta.org and finding out all that information. So this is the homepage. As you can see, the registration is open for July 19th to the 20th for SLC, which is the Summer Leadership Conference. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the National PTA website.
Can I bring up one other point before
course
we
you can.
So the other thing I would say too is the where we stand. As being on the resolutions committee, I will say that, but I think it's really important too, as a new leader, to acquaint yourself with the where we stand, which is all of our resolutions and all of our position papers. This tells us what we're working on, what our policies are, what our basic beliefs are, and what we are doing for our families, and what we go and advocate for, and what actions we're taking towards getting those positions in place. So this is a great place. It's also a good place to direct our families sometimes when they want to know. So what's your policy on, oh, let's see, juvenile justice in New York State? So there's information, there's policies, there's how we relate to not just school issues, but our whole child issues for our families.
So, and also because you're a part of a state association and also a national association, anything that you advocate for has to be within the same where we stand as New York State. So, we say support the current law that raises the age of criminality responsibility to 18. You cannot go and advocate against that because you are part of our state association. Instead, you use this position paper or anything, like it to support the advocacy work that you want to do, rather than to be going against the positions that New York State PTA has. And as a reminder, if you go to national convention, if you go to the state convention, which is in November, nothing is approved until the membership and the voting delegation approves it. So these positions and resolutions are not just a whim of the, 8 people on the committee. It is something that has been approved by the delegates at the convention. Do you want me to show anything else, Mary, from your website?
No, I just thought that was important because a lot of
Yeah.
times people ask about what our positions are, and it's important. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, you can see there's just a wealth of information here on the New York State PTA website. And then on the national website as well, we have lots of different programs here, information, resources. You can see family resources. There's a parent toolkit, the Center for Family Engagement. There is a podcast that's really great to pay attention to. And there's just, you can see all of these different resources that are on the National PTA website. So here, health and safety. We've got all this information here on the National PTA website. There's something for everyone here. But in particular, what I really want to show you, and if you go to the Run Your PTA, as leaders, you can see that there's a state resource bank. That's for state leaders, but the local leader kit is here. So there's so much information here as to how to do the very best you can to make your role on your leadership a success. Now, you could see all the different things that they have, but they also will have to you have to sign in and create an account. So if you want to know more about leadership, for instance, if you don't already have an account, see, you'd have to sign in. So I mean, I have an account, so should be. I didn't sign in before. I should have. I'm sorry. It's taking a minute here. But in any case, they have so much information. And the one thing that I really want to show you is the Thrive Learning community. So here you go. So we're in now, welcome to PTA leaders. And all of this information is here. How to get organized, your roles, your responsibilities, understand your bylaws, which we just talked about. And I really want to show you Thrive, which is here. Okay, so this is an online set of trainings. Some of them take 5 minutes, some might take 20 minutes, some might take 40 minutes. But what it is are online courses that you can take. Sorry. And you get certificates after each and every single one. And you could see, like, I've taken all these, oops, something's overdue. Sorry, I don't know what that is. The interesting thing is that I'm one of my roles on National PTA is to put some of these trainings together, specifically the SOA training. And so I'm just laughing because I've taken these courses over and over and over and over and over again, the same ones, because we keep rewriting them and tweaking them. So it just cracks me up that it would say I'm overdue. I'm honestly always in this. But you can see for local leaders, for state leaders, there are so many different things that you can do, all these courses that are offered that you can take, and building an inclusive team, parliamentary procedure. So if you don't know anything about parliamentary procedure, and it's really important for you to know more, you could just take this course, and it's online. It's at your own, your own timeline. So if you start it, you can come back and you'll, say you're only doing 5 minutes of it, you can come back and you can just pick up where you left off. And at the end of every single course, you will get a certificate. And so what we've done before is we've required, local leaders to take 3 of them and show your certification. And this way, you know that your leaders are constantly being trained, and information that they may need, or maybe you want your whole board to take the same one. For the SOA, it's a standards affiliation. That was that message that popped up at the beginning. Is a mandatory requirement for state leaders. And so that's what I work with. I work with a lot of state leaders, and that's So that's something that we insist that they take, and that's 2 40-minute classes, and then a facilitation. So I'm not talking about anything that labor intensive. Some of the other things are no more than 10 or 15 minutes, but it's a great way to learn about all things PTA. So I wanted to share that with you, and you can see all the other resources. Just, be familiar with the New York State PTA website and the National PTA website, because there's so much to learn from it. So it's nyspta.org for New York and justpta.org for national. And I believe there was one more. Let me find.
Yes, building a leadership pipeline
Yep, go
for
ahead. Yep.
succession. So I mean, this is the other thing, is which when I was first on the region board, it was the first time I really heard it a lot, was always make sure you're looking for who's going to follow you. So it's like, if you're in your first year in your role, already be looking around, looking for leaders to replace you, you're always looking for someone to replace you, looking for that next leadership role, whether they're going to replace you immediately or whether it's somebody that you're going to make sure is being trained to move into leadership roles and start to grow through the organization. And that becomes important because we've all, most of us have probably, if we've been in units for a while, realized that sometimes it's hard to fill positions. So you really need to be actively, encouraging people to learn, encouraging people to grow, and encouraging people to move into leadership roles and learn the skills that they need for that. So it's just one of those things. And I know we all should be looking around and saying, hey, there's this great volunteer. She's really great. She's at a lot of things. Maybe she'd like to be a chair next and run a program. And from the programs, she'll move up to an executive committee. So it's like, always be working on building your pipeline, because that's the way you help maintain your units so that they continue to grow and thrive going forward.
Yeah, and just really importantly, there is someone who comes to every one of your meetings, and maybe he or she is quiet, or maybe he or she is more involved with others. That person who's coming to every one of your meetings is interested. Make sure you get to know that person. Make sure that you, offer them if not necessarily a position, maybe just a spot on a committee. Or can you come and help at the book fair? Can you come and help the kids, shop at the Holiday Emporium? Let's get those people involved, because we need to create more leaders. There are problems all around, not just New York State, but all around the country. And their volunteers, it ebbs and it flows. We expect that. But we were just saying before too, that just because, I was saying it with another group of people before I had this meeting, I had another on a national level. There was a PTA that was just exploding with volunteers. They were so successful. They had 15 events a year. There was so much going on. But you know what? With COVID and after COVID, their volunteer pool just diminished. And people were saying, well, I miss math night, or I miss this, I miss that. Well, those people who are saying, I miss this, say, you know what? I miss it too, but we really need someone who can help us with it. Maybe you can. So you have to identify who those new people are, who just need to be asked. Sometimes, it just takes that 1 second to say, hey, can you help us out? Or we need somebody to help on picture day. Little things that don't take up a lot of someone's time, because maybe once they get involved, they're going to see more that they want to do. Maybe once they get more involved, they're going to say, you know what, this is too much for me. That's okay too. But unless you start looking around and picking up on who may or may not be a great leader, or a good leader, your leadership is just going to get swallowed up somehow, and your leaders are going to disappear. You need to develop those leaders, and I've been around New York State PTA a long time. Uh, Hence the reason I ended up becoming president, because, you stick around long enough, somebody taps you on the shoulder. But I was saying earlier, Mary and I go back a long time, when I was chairing our advocacy days and doing the training for our lobby days for New York State PTA. Mary came with her son, and then she came back again the next year, because she and her son really connected with that. And she got more involved in her region. And there were other leaders in her region who also saw her potential. And she got more and more involved because she felt a connection. And people recognize that. And now she is going to shortly be the outgoing RD in Westchester, East Putnam. And she's currently on the board of directors for New York State PTA. Now, I'm not saying everyone here is going to end up on the board or in their region, but everyone here certainly has the potential to imagine themselves at that point in those shoes. And I say that because Robin was telling me earlier something that really touched me, and I'm going to have Robin share that story. That's a really great way to wrap up. So why don't you please share that?
Sure. I just want to say thank you. First of all, thank you to both Mary and Dana, because the presentation was awesome and you covered so much valuable information. And as I share the story, I am going to say that one of the things, and when Dana was talking about not knowing the bylaws, not knowing the procedures, not knowing everything, as a new president, if I had attended, because I want to kick myself, if I had attended SLC and got that knowledge, I'm telling you, I would have been more prepared. I would have learned the things that I need to learn, so I wouldn't have to have made the error that I made when I first became council president. But when you go to SLC, it was like it was like the world opened up. It was like I was Dorothy. And that was the theme, actually.
That was the
But it was
theme.
actually
The Wizard of Oz,
it was
yep.
like Dorothy, and I had entered Oz, because everything that was black and white at home, at my local level, all of a sudden became color. And I encourage you all to, if you haven't registered for SLC, I believe Kathleen put it in the chat, to do so. But when I went to SLC, my first SLC, Dana was, at that time, she was the current president. And she was the current New York State president. And they have a thing called President's Chat. So as president of council, I went to the President's Chat, and Dana was there. And it was really a great workshop. But one of the things Dana said was, imagine yourself here. I want you to imagine yourself where I'm at. And then I want you to start looking, as Mary mentioned, for your replacement. Because the whole thing is, it's not, we shouldn't feel like we're the only ones that can do anything, because we're not. You impart that knowledge to somebody else, because maybe what you have done and their knowledge, they can make it better. So you just want to be the shoulders that they stand on. And what I did when Dana said that, I looked to my friend who at that time was the third VP, and I said, you're going to be the president. You're going to be you're going to be the next council president. And as I said that to her, that's exactly what happened. She became the council president. I went on to New York State, and I also went on to support in my region. But again, you take a look and dream, and it can really happen. So I just want to thank you guys. Thank you for letting me share. But thank you. And again, go to SLC if you haven't, and it's covered by your units. It's covered by your unit. So it's not something that you have to pay for. If you look in your bylaws, and again, as Dana said, know your bylaws. If you look in your bylaws, we have to get the training, and the training that we provide for New York State, for convention, for SLCs, SICs, those things are covered in by your unit. Thank
And
you.
let me just say also your region. You're supposed to
your
go to your
region, right?
region trainings as well, are covered in the bylaws. So
That's
yeah,
right.
I think Dana, now we're going to take questions if anybody has any
Yeah,
questions.
if anybody has a question, don't be shy. If you want to turn your cameras on, whatever you want to do, we're here. I'm not in any hurry. I don't know how Robin
Right.
feels
And if
about
you
that.
put your questions in the chat, and also just so you know, did they cover? Because I heard it, but there was a special question again that will unlock the ability for you to get that special leadership pin. And what was the question? Because I know they covered it. How do we celebrate our outgoing leaders? How do we celebrate those that are transitioning on? I know Dana spent a lot of time talking about it, as well as Mary. So you got to come up and make sure that if you didn't catch it, as Sonia said, it is video, it is recorded. So I would encourage you to listen to this again. And again, all of this information, come back to it, because you might not have been able to get everything at one time, but always feel free to come back and review it again, because it's here for us. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions? Because they were great. They were absolutely great. Sonia, Kathleen, do you have any questions? That's how good you guys were.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Another pat on the back. I just
Mm.
want to say, oh, you're very welcome. I want to tell you that that Thrive website is a gold mine of information. And for me, it is like I love taking those classes and saying, oh my gosh, you know what? I do know that. I do remember that. I have been involved on every level of PTA. I have held every single position except for treasurer, because that's not really my thing. But I always learn something. And so it doesn't matter what level you're at, we're always learning, we're always growing. And that's the best thing about Thrive. Like there's so much more to learn. And it also gives you the confidence because you know more than you think you know. That's why you're in these roles. But it gives you that leg up, and that's really cool. So oh good. I'm happy to see these comments. Appreciate it. We're all just an email away. If you go to the New York website, you can find all of us on there, our names and our email addresses. I'm always happy to, converse with, all of the members. Mary is such a wealth of information. She is boots on the ground in her region, continuing to be boots on the ground as field support. So you know what? That's what we want. We want to create leaders that come from behind, that lead from behind us, or that follow us, not lead from behind, but follow us, so that as we start to fade out, these new leaders are phenomenal. And I can only say the very best about every one of the New York leaders that are on this webinar now. I thank you so much, Robin, for asking me to be a part of this. I feel like the grandma now of New York State PTA. I get to come and do the fun things, but I don't have to change anybody's dirty diapers or deal with the drama. And so that's how you all want to feel as presidents when you move on. You want to feel like the grandma who's there for your board, but know that they don't need you. Only when they come to you, I'm always here. So I thank you as well. I thank all of you for being here.
Thank you all. Yeah, and like Dana said, please don't feel free to reach out. I love sharing resources, so I will be the first to.
She's so great. And like she's a librarian, like of course, and she volunteers at her local library. She is so great about resources. So
My mom was a librarian, so
okay. A couple of times we had to connect to do this, and I was always engrossed in the Tonys that one night. But I started. I've read 3 books in the last week. Mary will be very proud of me. And every time I say I'm going to call Mary, I'm like, oh no, I'm reading. I got to listen, and then I have to finish the book. So, in any case, that I go off. On a tangent. I
We
apologize.
just wanted to thank you both. We
Yeah.
really want to
Thank
thank
you,
you
Robin.
both. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for, taking the time, saying yes, and giving us this phenomenal information. As everyone is saying in the chat, is so, the presentation was spot on. And just again, with Dana and Mary always just saying, hey, we're still here. Look us up on the website. We're here. We're not going anywhere. If you have any questions, reach out. But if there are no questions, in any other further questions, we're going to let you guys go. But we just want to thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you again. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being
Thanks.
here.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.